Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Thank you very much for joining me today in my live session regarding some questions and answers. Thank you very much for being there. It was a fantastic 2.5 hours of conversations, or at least questions and answers. What do we have now? See, if someone comes and says, you have to accept my perversity, otherwise you are insensitive to my feelings and you are offensive, the question could be turned the other way. How about you are flexible to my requests and my values and you show tolerance? So if you want to join the European Union, you need to do this. European Union Court orders member state to recognize gay marriage. So you want to be part of the European Union, you have to recognize something that you might not recognize. Why? Because other people say you should do it, because otherwise you're not sensitive, you're not tolerant, you're not a loving person, you're a hateful person. But you can't turn it the other way and say, no, actually you are. You step on my values, you step on my tradition, you step on my culture. Back off. See? This is the price you pay if you enter the European Union. You become a state. All right, that's the first one. Second one. Moscow decries megaphone diplomacy as Kiev claims Zelensky ready to make deal with Trump. Russian officials have yet to confirm receiving any documents through official channels after 4 days of divisive Western negotiations. This is the way it is. If you pay attention, and I hope you do, to the mass media operatives working for the interests not for you, you will find out that it seems to me that the most important thing is not what Russia agrees or disagrees with. It is if Ukraine agrees with Trump. It is like a done deal. So let's say tomorrow Zelensky says, okay, I agree with everything Trump says. Does it mean anything? No. I tell you why. I mean, it means a step forward, but I tell you what's going to happen next. That little program, that little treaty, that little plan will be forwarded to Russia. And Russia will have the power to say "niet" or "da." One of the two. So all this, you see how important they make it that Ukraine accepts it. That's good, that's fine. But the big wave is Russia, not Ukraine. Ukraine is a vassal state, after all, depending 100% on the Americans. So when the Americans are trying to convince the Ukrainians are not certain, that's a game. The United States of America does this, unplugs, pack, and the Ukrainians die in 2 weeks. With all the Europeans around them, with all of them together. So what is all this kabuki play? Oh, I don't know if Zelensky agrees the Ukrainians are not prepared. Well, can we convince them? It's not working like that. The Americans tell the Ukrainians, you do this. You don't do this, pack, you're out. And that's it. Lights off. The Ukrainians are dying in 2 weeks. That's it. So remember, this is the little wave. Once the Ukrainians are on board with that, with little tweaking of the peace plan, then nothing. The Russians should have no demands, nothing. They should not have any requirements, nothing. That is the main thought. If the Russians agree, this is what's going to happen. After the Ukrainians, the guys in charge of Ukraine, will agree with this finally. They say, well, we're ready for peace. Beautiful, Trump, peace. Now the Russians. And the Russians say, what are you talking about? See, Russia doesn't want peace. But your terms are unacceptable to the winning part of the equation. It is not between you and Ukraine. It's between you and Russia, whomever you are. Do you understand? But this is the game. Ukraine will agree to some, This would be forwarded to Russia. Russia will say, no, 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 no. We have to talk about it. And then everybody will say, see, Russia does not want a peace plan. But what is this? These are your terms, the losing side's terms. Understand? Pay attention, pay attention. Next one. This is the embassies from Europe who are still delusional. Foreign troops may be deployed to Ukraine after peace deal. Macron. No, they will not. Emil Kosman, guarantees you that no French troops, German troops, British troops, maybe American troops will be deployed inside Ukraine. I guarantee you. They will not be deployed in. Got it? Take it to the bank. Why? And I'm going to stand behind it. If the Russians accept one French troop in Ukraine, or German, or English, or American, that means they accepted NATO somewhere where they entered the war or the military operation against exactly that point. We enter because NATO cannot be in Ukraine. But Macron still discusses, yes, look at this picture. Yeah, oui, mais oui, je m'en fous, mon ami. You know what? Nobody asked you anything. Nothing. Well, after the peace deal, we were foreign troops. Maybe, I don't know, maybe Belarusian troops, maybe Chinese troops, maybe Iranian troops, maybe North Korean troops, but nothing from NATO. Nothing. NATO is the enemy. They cannot be inside Ukraine. Again, next one. Ukrainska Pravda. Trump sends envoy Witkoff to Putin to agree peace plan on Ukraine. So, Witkoff is Jewish, sent to the European Putin, who knows exactly who in charge of Soviet Union were and who killed a lot of Christians. All right, he knows exactly. I know that he knows. I know he knows. He sends this guy over there. He's gonna give Putin the peace proposal of Trump. How can you send this guy already there when Zelensky did not agree to it already? Because listen to the text of this report. US President Donald Trump said on 25th of November that he has instructed Special Envoy Stephen Witkoff to meet Kremlin leader, not President Vladimir Putin in Moscow to finalize the peace plan. What about the other guy? What about where are you? What about this guy right here? Zelensky reportedly hopes to travel to US by the end of the week to make a deal. By the end of the week. But we have this guy right here. This guy is going to go to finalize. How can you finalize something the Ukrainian did not agree on yet? All right, I'm still waiting. I'm 50% certain that this is just a throwing Russia under the bus again. The same. We agreed with the peace process and the Russians disagree. Why would they? They will not ask this question. And the answer, if they ask this question, will be because Russians don't want peace. This is the evidence. Like I tell you, I decided with Gigi to come and plunder your house, take your wife, if she looks good, and your bank account. And you say, no, I don't want that. Everybody doesn't want a peace. Doesn't want peace. Therefore, we have to do everything we said we will do. This is how these guys operate, man. This is toddler. All right, let's see what Zelensky says. Ukrainska Pravda. Zelensky says he's ready to meet Trump with European leaders at the table. Why? Well, I want the North Koreans at the table. Let's say the Russians say, you know what? Okay, you bring the Europeans, we bring the North Koreans. And you know what? We're going to bring, let's say, the Belarusians, and we bring the Iranians. What do you think will happen? First, European Union should be out of it. Why? Not because it's insignificant, but the Russians don't trust them whatsoever. They should not trust anybody by default. Why? Previous actions. So Zelensky wants to meet Trump with the European leaders. Haven't we been here before? Haven't Trump met all these baboons at the White House? What did it come out of it? Zero. The European Union should be sidelined as it deserves to be. Next one. Orban, the Prime Minister of Hungary, will reportedly fly to Moscow to meet Putin on November 28th. Now this guy has balls. Has balls. Nobody dares to go over there. Fico, the Prime Minister of Slovakia, dared to go over there. The Serb President Vučić went over there, and that's it. Nobody else. Everybody else was afraid of the order. The order was nobody goes over there. You hear me? You hear me? But you had three. They said we're gonna go. Orban, Fico, and Vučić. Well, Vučić is not in the European Union, not in NATO. The other guys are right here. This guy got balls. And the last one, Russia will try NATO regardless of Ukraine peace deal. Experts warn. Of course. Why? Let me tell you this. So we have a rapist, and the rapist attacks a woman, and he starts penetrating. And then when he penetrated about 15,000 times, she stops him, but his cock is still inside. What do you think will happen next? She has to pull him off, correct? To get his little cock out of her pussy. That's exactly what Russia tries to do. So NATO penetrated Russia in Ukraine. And not only in Ukraine, in Poland, in Czech Republic, in Slovakia, in Hungary, in Romania, in Bulgaria, Baltic states. They are with the cock still in. And the Russian says, yes, we stopped you from in Ukraine, but still your cock is in my pussy in those states. Yes, expect that. Expect. You know why? Because in 1991, then the Secretary of State, James Baker, promised two guys, Mr. Gorbachev and Mr. Shevardnadze. Shevardnadze, the Georgian foreign minister of Soviet Union at that time. If you guys agree, if you agree with the unification of Germany, changing borders in Europe. Remember I say there's no changing borders in Europe. You already did in Germany, you already agreed in Czechoslovakia, you already agreed in Yugoslavia, you already agreed in Kosovo. Shut your pie hole, you hypocrites. So they said, James Baker, if you guys agree, we are the West, civilized West. If you agree with the unification of Germany, that means these guys could have said, niet. Then I promise you there will be no 1 inch eastern expansion of NATO. I promise you, we promise you, we're the civilized West, man, with democracy, truth, justice, freedom, man. And the Soviets were, yeah, okay, all right, we will agree with that, and there will be no Western expansion, no NATO expansion eastward. Great, man, here. Gentleman agreement, but they lied. And now the Russians are like, remember 1991? That's when the cock is still in the pussy. You are still in the Eastern and Central Europe. As you said and promised, you will not be in. Are you telling me now that we didn't sign anything? Okay, next time when you talk something with your brother, with your friend, with your spouse, or wife, or husband, make sure you write it down. Otherwise, sorry, honey, I told you I will not cheat on you, but do you have anything signed where explicitly says I will never cheat on you? No. Therefore, legitimate fuck, man. Legitimate fuck. Is that how it works? Or it goes without saying, man, that you don't cheat on a brother, you don't cheat on a friend, or on a spouse. Well, this is the Western, civilized West. Screwed the Russians over, the Soviets, the Russians. Therefore, the Russians, of course, will, next move will be, now you hush, out of Eastern Europe and Central Europe. There's not going to be easy, I would say impossible. But nevertheless, they will try it. And can you blame them? Can you blame them? If you say, well, that's outrageous. Remember, let's say tomorrow Russia creates a little alliance with Mexico, with Honduras, with Venezuela, with Cuba, maybe with Canada. Do you think the Americans will be like, it's okay, man, it's okay, they can do this? If they're sovereign countries, independent countries, they can do that. No, they ask that of Russia, but they would not agree if that would be the other way around. That tells you what? These guys are not just. They're not good. That means they're bad. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.